Hey, this is Learn Algebra Faster, and in this video we are going to discuss a bar graph template. So, bar graphs are what we use to easily visualize quantities of things. We get to compare things, we use them, they're easy to read, and in this video we are going to use a template to be able to make multiple bar graphs pretty easily. Now, bar graphs have a few things in common. They actually have four things that are important in common. So the first thing is the title. So that's going to tell you what you are actually measuring. That's going to be the name of the graph. The second thing that's important that needs to be on any bar graph is the vertical axis. Now this is going to be where we actually count. This is where we're going to actually show the numbers or the money, whatever the quantitative value is. The third thing that's important on any bar graph is the horizontal axis. So this is going to be the group or the types of things that you measure. And then last but not least, the fourth thing that any bar graph needs to have is the key. And so this will show what colors that you're using and basically make it pretty easy to see what is what. So let's use this template to quickly make a few bar graphs. So the template will be used because each bar graph will have a title, will have axes, and will have a key. So we're going to use this template, then draw over it to quickly make multiple graphs. So the title for graph number one, let's call it the number of dogs in a city. Okay, so now we go to B, to the vertical axis, and let's actually find out what we're going to measure. So in this case, we are measuring from 0 to 10. Okay, and now on the horizontal axis, this is where we group things. So actually, on this, let's say, let's just call the cities, let's call it small city, medium city, and large city. Okay, now this is where we actually start to draw the bar graph. So maybe in the small city, it only has 3 dogs in the city. Maybe in the medium city, it has 5 dogs in the city. And then in the large city, maybe it has 9. So you see pretty quickly, if we already have the vertical axis drawn, the horizontal axis drawn, and we leave space for the title and key, all we really have to do is fill in the bars, and then we have a completed graph. So in this case, you can see the trend very easily that the small city has fewer dogs. As the city gets bigger, you end up with more dogs, and that goes all the way to the large city. So now that we actually have the bars drawn, let's work on the key, which explains what we are measuring. So in this case, it's a very simple bar graph, and we just show that this same color is what we're actually measuring, which are the dogs. Okay, now let's actually make this a little more complicated. Let's turn this into a double bar graph, and let's not only measure dogs, let's also measure cats. So I'm going to stick this in here. So dogs and cats in a city. So now we've changed our title to the number of dogs and cats in a city. Now let's go over to the vertical axis. Our numbers are already filled out. Let's look at our horizontal axis. our numbers are, our categories, our groups are already filled out. So now all we have to do is build in the blocks. So maybe a small city only has 1 cat. The medium city has 6. And the large city has 10. Now, this shows this shows the similar trend that the smaller the city is, the fewer animals there are. And the last step is to come and fill in the key, which would show that the purple color represents cats. Cool. So now we've actually changed a single bar graph into a double bar graph by not really changing anything, but by just adding more data. So that's pretty cool. Now, here's the cool part about a template is that we can quickly use a different graph. So now let's come in here and let's make a whole different graph, and we keep the axes the same. We keep a space for the title, we keep a space for the key, and we can make a whole new graph because we have this template. So in this bar graph, let's measure cost of food per day of the week. Okay, so quickly the title shows us what we're going to be measuring. We're going to be measuring the cost of a certain food, and then we're going to be measuring that based on the different days of the week. Let's go to our vertical axis. Let's say maybe we have, let's do $2, $4, $6, $8, $10, and so on, all the way up to $20. And on our horizontal axis, we have room for four different groups, so we won't use all 7 days of the week, but let's maybe do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So maybe on Monday, cost is 10. Wednesday, the cost is 6. Friday, maybe the cost is, we'll try to get that in there where it's exactly 15. So we'll try to match that to where it's 15. And Saturday, maybe we are only at 10. So now the last bit is to show the key. For a single bar graph, a key is not super helpful because there's only one color. So this one just shows that we're measuring the food. Cool. So now, if we had to make yet another bar graph, we could easily delete the work that we have here. We keep the same axes, and we can make a whole new graph. So for our new bar graph, let's talk about cost of car per manufacturer. So maybe we will look at what the cost of the car is and compare that against the different car makers or manufacturers. So here, let's go to vertical axis. Because we're measuring cost, we're going to have to measure that in some monetary unit. So I'm actually going to let's do this as 10,000, 5,000, and then that makes each of these. That makes this 9,000, 8,000, 7,000, and so on and so forth. Okay, on our horizontal axis, maybe we only have two different car makers, and we'll just call them car maker A and car maker B. So let's go ahead and fill out the bar graph. Let's say that car maker A sells their car for $8,000 and car maker B sells theirs for $5,000. Then last but not least, we fill in the key that shows this color. We are measuring the car. So if you notice, one way to make lots of bar graphs quickly is you keep the key aspects the same. So I'm going to delete the work and show you what's left for the template. There you go. So the title, this vertical axis has to be there for every bar graph. This horizontal axis has to be there for every bar graph. And of course, you must have a key to understand what you're working on. So when you build a template for bar graphs, it's easy to draw different bar graphs, make comparisons, and make easy changes. So I hope that was helpful. For other videos and for other trips, check out LearnAlgebraFaster.com. Thanks.